This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and tonight we're talking about The Shop on Main Street from 1965, directed by young Kadar and Elmar Klos. Synopsis here from Letterboxd. Quiet, unassuming, perfect. Two employees at a gift shop can barely stand one another without realizing that they are falling in love through the post as each other's anonymous pen pal. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking about The Shop Around the Corner starring Jimmy Stewart, which, you know what, RJ? When I read the title, The Shop on Main Street, I'm like, oh, this is going to be like, oh, it's like a Czech kind of new wave movie. It's going to be
New wave.
New wave. It's going to be like kind of a jaunty little quirky Czechoslovakian movie about a guy and an older lady. Oh no. For The Shop on Main Street, the synopsis from Letterboxd, in a small town in Nazi-occupied Slovakia during World War II, decent but timid carpenter Tono is named area and comptroller of a button store owned by an old Jewish widow, Rosalie. Since the post comes with a salary and standing in the town's corrupt hierarchy, Tono wrestles with greed and guilt as he and Rosalie gradually befriend each other. When the authorities order all Jews in town to be rounded up, Tono faces a moral dilemma unlike any he's known before. RJ, my first note about this movie that I'd never seen before, and I think as I stated last week, at the end of the week, I knew nothing about, and I believe you just said, like, based on the title alone, and its year and whatnot, was like, that sounds really really horrible time to watch this boring sounding movie. My note here is Cripes. As I was not expecting this film that I guess could also go by The Complicity of Evil. So yeah, anyway, so this is a movie that is set in war's happening. Nazis have taken over the town. Life's kind of going on, and there's this nice backdrop of the Jews being taken away.
Who?
The Jews are being taken away in trains, RJ. So I wasn't expecting this to come up in this movie. So, oh man, these movies are never a good time. They're real, RJ. This is real talk. It's grim stuff. I always remember many years ago when I was watching The Pianist for the first time. Anytime you're confronted with like anything about pogroms and roundups and ghettos and Nazis and shit, it gets you down. It really reminds you just how capable of evil humanity is. And sometimes I like to be like in the right mindset going in, expecting, kind of knowing, okay, this is what we're going into. I didn't know that this is what it was until 1942 rolled across the screen, and I'm like, oh God. And so yeah, this movie.
Sounds like you had a good time.
Oh yeah, a real good time, because it snuck up on me. So this movie, one of my notes here, I did not take very many notes. I was pretty immersed in watching this thing, because it's just like, it's a really well-made movie, at like, whatever, a little over 2 hours long. I stopped the movie a couple times, because I was kind of like, oh my God, like, I know what's coming next. I'm like, I have to take a break. I'm like really enjoying this movie, but I have to take a break. I have to go do something else right now. I don't want to finish this all in one go, because it's going to weigh on me heavy. I was aware, though, that if this movie were remade, or this movie was like made now, it would be really intolerable and would be really saccharine and shitty. I was just trying to imagine like modern actors doing the same stuff. Steve Carell as Tony, and then like who's like Helen Mirren or something like that, and like someone like zany old lady playing it, and it would just be like brutal, and like we'd all be making fun of this Oscar bait crap. Speaking of which, this film did win Best Foreign Language Film from the Oscars in 1965.
That's nice to know.
Yeah, so another Best Foreign Language Film here in the Criterion. Seems like it's been a while since we came across one of them bad boys. Maybe it was like Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie. Maybe
there was a run of like four in a row.
And there was like Black Orpheus, and they're all in the same window time, like when the awards started and stuff like that. And so yeah, they were pumping out those Best Foreign Language Films back in the day with that Criterion. This movie's really good. I think I was
Uh-huh.
into. Let's see. Like I said, I didn't take notes. I'm kind of like free balling it here.
Oh, gross.
Disgusting.
When did you watch this? Was it yesterday or 2 days ago?
2 nights ago.
Okay.
2 nights ago. Yeah. So I watched this Monday.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's got that. It's kind of a. It's a weird movie. It doesn't like. It's kind of like bounces between like this kind of loose kind of a comedy ish
Hmm.
elements. Like it's got this discordant soundtrack. Whenever like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really like whoa.
Hmm.
This is like an unusual sound.
Hmm.
And so it's kind of like off putting, which I think is the intent. There's like these shots of like the kind of like when you're on the street, the promenade, and you're doing this stuff like that. There's like a lot of
Hmm.
performance of people kind of all circling around in like this idea of like human decency, and it's all kind of like this horrible mask of horrible things that are about to happen. And it never even tries to get into or explain like what would drive anyone to like be so like vehemently anti-Semitic and like just like talking about the Jews in this way, because there's no need to explain it because it doesn't make any sense. It's horrible. And it's just it's yeah, do your research. I don't need to get deep into this stuff.
Can you explain to me what Nazis are?
What are Nazis?
Yeah.
They're the bad guys. Contrary to what
Puppet Master, the Littlest Reich.
yeah, contrary to what Puppet Master the Little Strike would have you believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're heroes of the movie. If you're an
Hmm.
idiot who wants to be offended, no.
Hmm.
Here it's just like they're the bad guys, and this is like a horrible situation. And it's like, how do regular people like you or I survive or exist in a world where this is happening? Because this always goes back to the question of like, well, how the hell did any of this happen in the first place? Didn't like good people stand up, or did they, and they just allowed evil to exist?
Hmm.
And it's like, yeah, it's always about context, and like, yeah, there's a lot of things in place there. Like, oh, you actually, if you are sympathetic to the Jewish cause, you are beaten roundly in the street and made an example of to deter people from helping a fairly like loose system of how you can control people and get away with
Hmm.
things. But it's effective because most people are, at the end of the day, weak and selfish, and they're in it for themselves, because that's just kind of how we're wired, I think.
Hmm.
So yeah, this film just sets up Tony, who's just kind of a schmohawk. He's a guy. He's doing like bit work here and there, getting paid not enough. His wife,
Hmm.
real ball buster. She's like yelling at him to get payment. He's like, well, I didn't get all the money. He's like a lovable oaf, a real Tim
Hmm.
Allen. He'd be right at home in a situational comedy.
I had a Home Improvement vibes from this as well. I really don't know why.
So
Is that just a feeling this movie puts off?
yeah, it's like yeah.
Aru?
Oh, indeed. So what happens is his brother-in-law, this Tony,
Hmm.
he's right in there with those
Nazis.
the police,
Hmm.
the government forces that are bedding up with the Germans. And he's like, "Hey, I got a sweet gig for you. You just have to like take over this button shop." And
Hmm.
of course, it all turns out that it's kind of like a swindle. There's a lot of people getting drunk, pissing in alleys and stuff like that to celebrate. It's real European wild times getting drunk.
Hmm.
And then we settle into the main thrust of the movie, which is the interactions between Tony and Rosalie, the sweet old Jewish lady who's basically deaf. And you get the back and forth hijinks of her misunderstandings and whatnot.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's just like this is the part where I was like, man, I think this movie is like, in this movie, this is working for me. But if this was a remake, this would suck so much, and it speaks so much to like how a movie shot, the subject matter, the time and place. There's like a certain distancing, because this is like a kind of a niche kind of like Czechoslovakian 1960s cinema. So it doesn't feel like the way that maudlin Hollywood would. So it kind of makes this kind of
Hmm.
subject matter acceptable to me, and it feels genuine, rather than like really like trying hard to lay it on thick. Because then kind of just starts building as you start seeing the ramifications of the society, as things start getting worse and worse, and you're kind of like the people in the community are being asked to kind of go along with worse and worse things, and then you get these like scenes with Tony like getting real angry with his wife, slapping her around, like, and it's like just like
Jarrett style.
Thanks. Not Jarrett style. Kicking a dog, throwing shit at the dog. And then just climaxes into this brutal ending of a movie. Yeah, I don't know. I think this movie is like I didn't know what to expect. I think this movie is pretty great. It's a very nice example of what the Criterion Collection should be all about, which is getting these movies second life. Unfortunately, I think what happens though is like with that title and it kind of being niche. I mean, when you have like now like the Criterion putting on stuff like Breakfast Club and like these big movies, horror, Princess Bride, like they're horror movies. We all look forward to stuff like these kind of big name cult movies that like everybody wants to see. They're never excited about these smaller movies, and so those movies kind of do a disservice to a movie like this, because this movie's like gonna be like someone's like bottom pick of ever something to watch, other than like they're being told, hey, you got to go out of your way to watch this, or like I'm going to watch all the best foreign language films, or I'm going to learn more about Czechoslovakian cinema during the Soviet era. But so yeah, something like this is going to slip through the cracks. But anyway, RJ, I'm feeling pretty enthused about this movie. Nice. What did you think about The Shop on Main Street?
This movie sucks hard.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. This movie's pretty good. I was just gonna say though, I like what you said. I'm gonna give you this one time.
Oh, you're gonna give me credits give you for once? One time. Holy crap!
I do like what you said about the mainstream movies that people want in the Criterion now, because that's kind of what it's associated with, like the Breakfast Clubs. And I agree. This is the kind of movie that I feel like what Criterion is. Like I talk about that here and there about like what I think Criterion movies are. This is one of those ones that I think is a Criterion movie, like a forgotten film from long ago, from far away, that's really good and has a really important message, and people don't know about it because it's either forgotten for this reason or that reason, and it's one of those movies that almost shouldn't exist anymore, you know? It's like this movie could have very easily have just been lost to like forever,
and it kind of is, right? Like, I mean, in what world, what time, if we weren't doing this podcast, if we weren't insane and doing this Criterion creep, going through all the movies in order, would you or I watch this movie? Like,
yeah, I never would have watched this.
It's on nobody's top 10 list.
Yep.
It's never going to be like, it's not Seven Samurai, it's not The Seventh Seal, it's not one of the obvious movies. It's not a Wes Anderson movie. It's not like, David Cronenberg's Scanners. That's one of the best 10 greatest movies of all time. It's like, because it's like the subject matter too. It's like it's real serious shit and grim. Like I said, like
it could be in like a 3-pack with Schindler's List and The Pianist.
Well, and like those are the movies that people are going to go to for their feel bad times. Like there's like lots of options. There's actually another movie that like I wanted to actually watch because it's very similar to this, called The Pawnbroker. And it is, because it's like really well regarded. Let me just double check on this bad boy. But it's similar themes, low key, really well made movie. And like in this movie, like everyone who sees it loves it. But then, here we go. Yeah, it's survivors of the Holocaust. So it's the other side of things. But grim subject matter, and
grim indeed.
Yeah.
I believe, just a teaser here, I believe next week's movie is also a Czechoslovakian World War II drama.
It sure is.
So a little theme here. But anyways, I just wanted to say I do agree with you. I think this is a good example of what Criterion movies should be. Movie like this. Yeah. A movie like this one. So I enjoyed this quite a bit. I almost watched this with Andy. She asked if it was an Andy pick, and I read out the description, and she's like, that sounds okay. I was like, it's also Czechoslovakian from 1960. And she's like, no, I don't want to watch that, which I think was the right call, because this old lady is a lot like Andy's grandma, who is also a Holocaust survivor who fled
Okay,
Europe.
well, I'm glad that you said Holocaust survivor and not Holocaust denier.
No, survivor. She fled Europe when she was a young girl, and this old lady is a lot like how her grandma is now, present day. She's very like she has dementia, so she's very like forgetful. She's still pretty sharp, but she says the same stuff over and over again. And you'll say something to her, and she'll be like, "Huh?"
Making those dumplings.
Yeah. She'll just bring food out too, and you're like, "Oh, what a sweet old lady." And then Andrew's like, "How was your movie?" I was like, "It was good. The ending would have made you sad. It would have made you a little bit sad." And I explained it to her, but anyways, it was not an Andy pick. She would have liked it, but it would have made her sad for a while. So I did like this movie. I thought it was really good. I do have a few, not criticisms, but just comments as a whole. I think this movie is misleading in the first half an hour because, as you said, it's kind of has dips into comedy. And one of my first notes was, is this a comedy? Because I was like, what is this? Because there's a lot of like physical gags with the lead where they're building up that he's kind of like a schmuck. And the way they do that is through physical humor. Yep. So it's like the stuff with the foot bath, and then it's like him tripping over stuff or being clumsy and dropping stuff. And they're kind of like gags. And you're like, oh, this is it's like a weird kind of bit of humor. But I see why they do it to set up like his dilemma later. He's this kind of clumsy schmuck guy. But then also, like what you said, there's this weird music. And I was trying to pinpoint it the whole time because there's a different movie, and it's probably someone like Hans Zimmer or some shit where there's like a score, and that's all I could think about in this movie. And I was like, I feel like this music's really out of place. Like it didn't fit for me. I was like, I don't know, this music doesn't seem like it's appropriate for this movie, but I don't know. That was just me. So there are things like that where I think I was a little thrown off, not because it was bad. I understand why some of the I understand the humor bit, but I was kind of like, I don't know where these fit in with this movie, like especially the music. So there's stuff like that. But this movie also does a really good job at setting the context, at building on who the dude is. You get some great scenes with like his family dynamic, his dynamic in the community, who he is like for all the people that live around him.
Well, some of it even feels a little Fellini-esque with that character work. Yeah, with the town crier who's like being bummed out that they're putting in speakers, and it's like, so what's the point of this guy?
Yeah, and it's, remember in La Trau, where it's like, that's another lost trade. Like town speaker, man, just another lost trade. But like stuff like that. I think they do a really good job at his family dynamic, where it's like his wife and then the sister-in-law and then the brother-in-law, where there's this weird interplay where it almost seems like they all want to be with the other one. That's what I got, at least. Like his wife for sure wants to be with the brother-in-law, but like the sister-in-law was nice to him. But then I also wrote, my first note was brother-in-laws. Am I right? Because he comes in strutting his stuff, and he's getting drunk, and he's all hands, Jarrett. I don't know if you noticed, but he was grabbing some ass.
Oh yeah,
and some tits, and not that my brother-in-law does that, but I'm sure somebody's brother-in-law does that. But I thought they showed like the dynamic really well, especially when he like yells at him, where you can just tell he's had enough. And he like loses on it. He's like, listen here, you fucker. He's like, this is my house. He's like, I know you're a big guy and big important guy, but he's like, why don't you just leave me alone? And then there's like the back and forth, and then they get drunk and they go have a pee in the alley. So anyways, I think the movie sets that stuff really well, where they show why he feels these pressures from the family. And then him in the community, he's seeing like other people lose their jobs, and he's kind of like this low level dude who doesn't really have much to do, and he has no work. And it sets the scene for why he gets kind of put in the position he does. So they do stuff like that.
Right. Well, because like
Really?
I think they're trying to like situate the viewer into that world though too, and like
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yep.
easier to like because they set you up with this guy who's a goof, so it puts immediately kind of you above him, so you're kind of laughing at his plight, but then they slowly humanize him, and so you also kind of get drug along with it, and it comes to a point though where he starts like doing the right thing, and he starts
Yep.
becoming very protective of Rosalie and like making sure like
Yep.
when he's like freaking like where did she go? God, I gotta start and you have to start protecting her and stuff like that. And you're like, yeah, you gotta protect the old lady. And so it kind of it doesn't tricks you, it manipulates you into his position. And then like when you start getting the real horror of it, it starts putting you into these situations that you don't want to be in. You don't want to be like, oh shit, my life's on the line. And I mean, you never like are fully there where you're like, yeah, you gotta send that bitch out there. You gotta save yourself, bro. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't go that route. It's more like you now are watching in horror as he's doing these thought exercises about selfishness,
Mhm.
and you're kind of like, "Don't do it, dude. Oh, don't be that guy. Don't do that."
Mhm.
And you start like kind of like you're like, "Oh God, this guy's doing really bad things now. Oh no,
Yep.
don't throw her into the closet."
Hmm. No, they do a good job showing like the conflict of the dilemma for him, where, like you were saying, they show you the relationship between them, like them working together, and he's like a goof, and she's like kind of a quirky old lady. She's like, "Get out of here, you go do something else."
Hmm.
So he like goes and just keeps busy in the back, which turns out that's what he likes more. He just likes doing stuff in the background. He doesn't want to be up front, and it works well for them. She like cooks him some food. They do some work for each other, and he's like, "You know what? This is actually not that bad." But then the conflict comes with him, and it's like you said, where he's kind of dealing with this with his own decisions. He's like, am I going to put myself on the line for this lady that I'm kind of friends with now? And I think that's the heart of the movie, and it's the best part of the movie too, where it's like what 20 minutes of him running back and forth trying to decide on whether
Oh,
he's
yeah.
flip-flopping on whether or not he should do it. He's like, should I fucking throw this old lady in the street, or should I just like hang out?
or how-
He's like,
or-
they're not here yet.
Well, it keeps fluctuating because it's like, well, is she like, oh, we have to hide her, and then it's like,
Mhm.
oh no, it's too late. We can't hide her. She's just going to get caught. And then I know what's going to happen to me because they're going to think I'm guilty. And I'm like, I'm the worst now in this like community because we see what happens to people who help those people. You get beaten. I don't want to get beaten. I'm going to get shot in the back of the head. And then then you get exposed to just like the fact that people are pretty okay with horrible things happening as long as there's money in it. Like
Yeah,
where you get the payoff.
I was gonna say, this is another in a long line of Criterion movies where once again, money is the answer to everyone's problems.
Yeah.
Like he gets some money, he goes buys some perfume, and his wife is just happy, no more problems. No one thinks he's a schmuck anymore. He's getting haircuts. He's wearing suits.
She really wants to know where that gold is in the old lady's house.
That part I shouldn't have laughed, but I thought that was pretty funny. It's like, that old Jew has gold hidden in the
Mhm.
floors, and I was like, oh my god,
That's some real stuff right there.
some real stuff. This movie has lots of crazy stuff like that. Like there's a scene where he's oiling the hardwood. He's like a bucket, and he's got a hole in it, and he's like doing a zigzag
Yep.
on the wood, and he like sweeps it, and I was like, what is he doing? Was he oiling it?
Something like
That's
that.
way different than saying that old Jewish ladies hide gold in their floors.
Yeah, I'm not
But
sure
I was just-
the linkage there.
I was just looking at my notes at weird stuff. There is, what did I say? They say a white flag is a sign of victory. I thought that was kind of weird because I don't think that's how it works. I have two timestamps, Jarrett. At 1:17, I had a note that said a nice little goose.
Oh yeah,
sure what
that old lady's like tossing
Yeah,
that
she's
goose,
buying that goose.
holding upside down, checking it out.
And then at an hour, or not a minute 17, hour 17. And then at an hour 21, I wrote a barn full of hair. So I don't really know. I don't remember. Is that a line in this?
There's the Jewish barber, and he talks about like while he's kind of like packing up because he knows like they've just seized his shop because that's what the fucks did. He's like,
okay.
I'd have like all the hair I've cut over the years. I'd have a barn full of hair, and it's all for naught.
I see.
That was the bit.
Okay. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
You
Horrifying.
can,
Isn't that shit like horrifying? Like
You know
this
what's
idea
horrifying?
that like the state can just be like, oh hey, we're just gonna write laws that say we can do that now. How do you like them apples? And according to some types of people online, they're like, well, it's the law. You got to follow it. What are you breaking the law for? It's the law. It's what it is.
Trust the government, Jarrett. That's why we elect them, to make decisions for us.
They always do right.
They always do the right thing. Yeah, like I don't know how people didn't know Nazis were bad when they implement the dog tax.
Yeah.
If you own a dog, you're gonna get taxed. I saw that and I was like, "What is this horse shit?"
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty depressing, man.
Keep your dogs indoors. No more outside.
Keep your dogs indoors. Yeah. So you can tell Nazis are bad dudes because of that. Yeah. And then there's two other things I want to talk about. I think this movie has some big symbolism that I can't deconstruct myself. One is the obvious one with the Tower of Babel there.
Oh, yes.
I think there's more to that than meets the eye. There's a little bit that I got from it, but I'm going to keep that to myself because people don't care what my opinion is. But then the other one was the birds, and I don't know what that one means. So at the opening, you have they're like big stork-looking things
on the roofs.
Yeah, and then you see them later on too. Like, I don't know if that's just a regional thing or if that has something for the movie. I was like, I wonder what these birds mean.
I think I feel like it's without like thinking about it too much, I feel like it just added sort of like a weird kind of vibe to the movie. Like it feels real because they're shooting something that exists, and it grounds it in a way that's like banal and kind of like, oh, there's these shots. It's like this is just nice footage of these birds, and they're kind of like doing it, and you're like, they're going about their business. Like it's just life. This is what it is, and the birds look like they might have it rough because they're birds, but their life probably is a little bit better because they don't have to deal with the horribleness that is of the situation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well that makes sense,
I think.
And then the other thing I was going to say is this movie really clicks for me when you get to the ghost streams, which I think is kind of obvious. Not the ending one, but just that first one when they're on that floating tram.
Yep.
And they're talking to each other, but they're not actually talking to each other. It's just voiceover stuff. When that scene hit, I was like, oh yeah, that's the good stuff right there. So this movie packs a punch. It's got an all-time banger ending, I think. It's pretty good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I don't know what you thought about that ending. I thought it was pretty sad.
I'm kind of
You're unsure whether you liked it or not.
I am glad. I mean, it could have just ended. Okay, spoilers. It could have ended with just like the rope or the knockover of the chair, and because he kills himself, which is the right thing to do. Probably at the end of the day, and it means like everything was for naught. All the stressing about his own life and whatnot.
Well, you forget to mention he threw her in the closet to hide her, but she's super old. Yeah. And she dies.
Yeah, she breaks her neck or something like that, and ridden with guilt. And there's this like almost like serial killer like cam that's like following him around, the accusatory viewer cam that's following him, and he's like avoiding the gaze of the viewer of God or whatever you want to call it, that's judging him. And then and then you're like, oh, he sees that little bit of a lantern hook, and he goes and fetches himself some rope, and I'm nodding along going, yes, and then it's all over with the crying because that's it. He did it himself in, because that's the only way you can reconcile yourselves with this horrible world that you find yourself in. And then you get this sort of like musical send off with the backdrop of the monument. The garish, like ugly as fuck monument that then turns into this kind of like beautiful little musical set piece, like some sort of like a Czechoslovakian attempt at like a Bugsby Berkeley musical thing, as you send these two characters off, Harold and Maude style, and it's all good. And it's kind of like, hey, we just dragged you through a really harrowing experience. Here's a musical number, and I'm like, I'm kind of glad they left me on that note rather than just like, oh, depressed. Holocaust is coming. This is bad. Oh God. And,
this is bad.
Yeah, I feel bad. Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah, you should feel bad. Yeah, I like the ending. I think it's nice.
Yeah.
I think it's nice that guy hung himself and him and his old lady friend float off into the
because his wife was
distance.
Yeah, because his wife's a horrible human being.
She always sucked.
Yeah.
She always sucked.
Yeah, money grubbing. As soon as she gets that little bit of power, she's like, "Oh, we can buy all this other stuff. He's got to find that gold, and we need more money. You got to ask her. You got to get it out of her. These Jews." And you're just like, that's how it begins, huh?
The what?
This is how it begins.
Oh,
gotta get the money from the Jews.
the Jews.
God damn it. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So.
Are you wondering who hates the Shop on Main Street?
I have a feeling some people do.
Surprisingly,
final note, it's a good show.
Yeah. It's very few people. It's not
Is it
that
because
many.
no one's ever seen this movie?
Mostly, that's probably a good reason. That's usually why. Usually the people who are drawn to this movie are the ones who are going to like it. So you're going to get like probably a few number of people who are checking it out blindly.
Well, you check it out for me right now, big boy.
Well, 2 stars from Nathan N. The only movie I slept halfway through. Maybe I'll rewatch it again. See, that's not even hate.
You know what he didn't sleep through?
What?
Branded to Kill.
Ooh.
Which is a movie I slept through. He's also watching all the Harry Potter movies right now. And he ranks Chamber of Secrets on par with Prisoner of Azkaban. And I just got to say, Jared, that's ludicrous.
That's a crock-a-bull.
That is ludicrous. Anyways.
And then this Landskip fella. 2.5 stars. Failed to hook me.
You know what failed to hook me?
What?
One of Landskip's favorite films, Le Million. Previous Creep. Yeah. That musical number, Le Million. That movie is not like anything.
That's a movie
How is that anyone's favorite movie?
That is crazy. That's surprising. Actually, I'm surprised. I was like one of the I'm like a defender of that movie to a certain degree. Seems like no one really cares about that one too much.
Yeah, but it's no one's favorite movie.
Well, no, God, that's silly.
This person also likes Houseu and Where the Red Fern Grows.
No, that's okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Teach their own, I guess. But yeah, that's it. No one's no, it's pretty. I don't know. It'd be a tall order to not be a fan, I guess. But it could happen. I don't know.
I guess it's what you put sometimes. If you're someone who's seeking out 1960s Czechoslovakian World War II dramas, then you're probably interested in it, and you're not watching it just to watch it and end up hating it.
And I mean, like on a technical level, the way this movie's shot, like it's really good. I mean, it's always a disconnect when you're watching foreign language movies and reading subtitles, so you don't know exactly how the performances are. But I'd say that our lead here is pretty good.
I thought he was good. Yeah.
I'm curious what his name is. What do you think his name is?
Claude Ludo.
Old Claude Ludo. That's very French.
Is it not?
No. Here we go.
Are you looking at Joseph Kroner? Like the donut?
Yeah.
This guy, like as an old man, he's pretty. He looks like a character actor, man. He could have been like a Martin Landau.
Is he jacked?
No.
Oh.
But he just looks like Martin Landau.
He has a portrait, so he's relatively famous to everyone else.
Joseph Kroner.
Died in 1998. Notable films. This is the only one you've probably heard of.
What about The Man Who Lies by Alan Robe Grillet?
Oh, he's in that too. See, it doesn't even get it doesn't even get featured play on the IMDb.
Well, why are you on IMDb and not Letterboxd?
I don't know. That's what popped up.
Chump.
The Man Who Lies. You know what? I collect the line of movies that belongs to, and I still haven't bought this one yet. So oh yeah, Alan Robe Gorilla. That guy is definitely not a filmmaker you're going to enjoy.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, I won't watch that one. But Joseph Kroner is also in a movie called Time Stands Still, and it takes place in Budapest. And there's 2 guys that I follow that have it in their watch list, so they must know something I don't know. I'm gonna put it in my watch list.
Holla.
How do you like that? And then I'll watch it like a year from now, and I'll be like, I don't know why I was interested in this movie.
There's a very good chance of that.
Uh-huh.
But yeah.
Anyways. It's a good show.
It's a good show. What more can be said? Very good movie. And if you like good movies and well-crafted films that aren't necessarily a good, smooth time, something that it's a little like, oh, God, reminds you of the horrors of the world and our history, and waiting for something like this to happen again and just hope that it's not happening with you around in it, check out The Shop on Main Street.
If you like good movies, he says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After the break, I don't know. RJ's going to break his neck after I shove him in a closet, and I'm going to do the right thing and dance.
Nice.